Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. Today, we're going to be speaking with Jean Lorrah and Lois Wickstrom. They are a dynamic screenwriting duo who've been partners for decades. They shared a lot of interest over the years from the Loch Ness Monster, even going on trips together. And one of them, who is Jean Lorrah, has been a best-selling New York Times best-selling author for the Star Trek books. And they won the Gold Remy World Fest, and the screenplay became optioned for an earlier screenplay they wrote called Coal for Christmas. We're also going to be discussing today one of their recent screenplays called Pop-Up Kids. It's a lot of fun, and it's just an amazing journey that they've been on together. And their background is just incredible in terms of writing everything from magazines, books, and feature films. And I'm going to play their entire pitch deck at the end of the podcast. So stay tuned for that. It's really exciting and lots of fun. So without further ado, let's meet the ladies. Hello, everyone, and I'd like to welcome Jean Lorrah and Lois Wickstrom to the podcast. Hello, ladies.
Hello.
Hello. Would you both like to introduce yourselves? I don't see your name labels up there. Lois, you can go first.
I'm Lois Wickstrom.
Okay.
And then Jean, her pronouns, whatever.
Okay. And Jean?
I'm Jean Lorrah. Hello.
Hello. Okay, and as I told you in our introduction, they have a long history, decades of working together. Now, we're going to be talking today about one of their award-winning projects that was optioned, and we're also going to be talking about their recent project. Lots of fun. It is really just a wonderful project that we recently gave a recommend to. But before we get to that, you ladies, could you tell me how you got started? Because I know you have an extensive background in magazine writing, in book writing. So how did you get into writing for screenplays and become writing partners?
Well, we became writing partners a long time before we got into screenplay writing.
Mm-hmm. We ran a small literary magazine together for a number of years. I think that was how we met, wasn't it, Lois?
Yes, you wrote me a critique of my magazine. I said, this is someone I need.
And you two were editors at this magazine, correct?
Yes.
Editor and co-editor. Okay. And I did mention in the introduction that they had a common thing they loved, which was Nessie, the Loch Ness Monster. And they even went on a tour together. So tell us a little bit about that. That sounds like so much fun.
We spent lots of time walking around Loch Ness, taking a boat the length of Loch Ness. We didn't see Nessie. We talked to other people who said they had seen her.
Okay.
The one man who was sure he'd seen her said she's only 10 feet long, which is a little disappointing.
Which could be a sturgeon, right? Because they have sturgeons in that lake too. So.
Yes, they do. And in fact, we asked him about that. And he thought maybe it had been. He wasn't sure.
Could be. So Jean, tell me, has this helped contribute to the stories that you do today? Because they're so magical and adventurous. Do you think all of these years with the two of you working together has contributed to that?
Oh, definitely. Lois is one of my longest and most frequent collaborators. I enjoy collaboration where you can bounce your ideas off another person and something grows out of it that neither of you would have come up with alone.
The two of you have done this successfully with your project called Coal for Christmas. And I love Coal for Christmas. It's a beautiful, beautiful story. And now that one won the Gold Remy World Fest. And it was optioned. And let me read the log line just so that our audience knows what that's about. Now, that's a period Christmas story about a little boy that wants to help his sister who's having pneumonia and dying from pneumonia. And he figures if he's bad because they're freezing, it's a bad situation then with the finances and stuff in that period. And he figures if he's bad, he can get some coal for Christmas. Most kids don't want the coal in their stocking, but he wants it. So it's charming and it has that nice irony. And so tell us about that project and how it got optioned and where it's at now. We'll start with Jean and then we'll go to Lois.
A producer in Philadelphia where Lois lived, still does, wanted to option the script. And we made an option contract and we thought that our script was going to be produced. He didn't tell us that he had no funding. He assumed that we just knew that he couldn't possibly have any money, and we were supposed to be out there money raising, and we were busy writing new projects instead.
Of course, you're writers, you're not producers, right? I mean, that's
Exactly.
so.
Yeah.
Tell us, Lois. I mean, did you eventually? Obviously, you found that out. So what happened then?
Well, the option lapsed, and we have not been able to find another option. I've had other interests, but they balk at giving money to the project.
Yeah, because and that's a good thing for writers to ask up front when they get an option. Like, are you funded by a studio? Are you independently funded? Doesn't hurt to ask that, and you have every right to ask that because sometimes they don't have any money and they have to go out and look for it. Or worst case scenario, they want you to look for it. And just remind them that you're the writer and they're the producer. Now, one of the things I want to hit on, because I know people are going to ask me, because we have a lot of authors in our roster, and I did mention in our opening that one of the ladies here, sorry, I forget which one of you does this. I think it's Jean, does the Star Trek books.
That's Jean.
Jean? Okay,
Yes.
so Jean, tell us about that because I know they're going to be wondering, how do you write a Star Trek book? I mean, isn't that owned by Paramount? And you have been a New York Times bestseller in this category. So tell us a little bit about that, Jean.
Time that I wrote the Vulcan Academy Murders, I was a published science fiction writer, still am. And so I had an agent, and she was able to get it in front of their noses.
Okay.
And they liked the concept and gave me a go ahead, and I wrote it. Over a period of years, I wrote 2 original series novels and 2 next generation novels. As their franchise expanded, I was not emotionally invested. I mean, I watched the other series, but it was not the same as the original series and Next Generation. Both of those, I was very much emotionally invested in. I loved it. I wouldn't miss an episode. So it was a joy to write for to write books about those characters and situations.
And it's nice to know that if you're a freelancer, you do have the opportunity, maybe through an agent or a manager, to get that permission to write the books in those categories. So, because I've seen a lot of those books out there for different shows, not just that one. So that's an option I think a lot of writers don't think of. Okay, so let's talk about the one I love, our most recent one, Pop-Up Kids. I just helped them do the pitch deck for it, and I am going to be showing you the pitch deck here in the podcast at some point. It's going to come up. I might run it at the end. Their full pitch deck I did for them. This is a charming little kid story, and it's about a teen who discovers a teleportation serum left in her uncle's cereal factory that sends kids popping into trouble. So Lois, tell us about this project. What's the inspiration behind it? And tell us why you decided to write it.
Well, the inspiration, like so many of them, is an image I remember from a dream. And just,
like
the popping. And I woke up thinking about how much fun popping would be. And then I got the idea, and who would it be the hardest to pop? I thought, a blind kid would be the hardest to pop. They really wouldn't want to because they're so used to having a cane to see where they're going.
Mhm.
And so we put a blind kid in the story and gave her that very problem that she didn't want to pop. And of course, being a plotted story, she has to pop. She gets forced to pop. Creating the personality for the blind kid and how the other kids work with her was a lot of the fun of the story. So it wasn't just the popping. It was the emotional response to that popping by the different types of kids, and particularly the blind girl.
Right. They can pop in and out of places. It's like teleportation with this magic purple goo stuff from this
Yes.
factory. And
Yes.
it's fun. I mean, what do kids do with that, right? I mean, the rest of the world's waiting for these great sci-fi discoveries, and it falls into the hands of kids, right? So,
Right.
so they have a lot of fun with it. It's really just so much fun. So tell us about the main lead for the story. Jean, tell us about her.
Okay, now Sarah, not the blind kid, is the main character, and she drives the plot. Pearl, blind girl, is a very powerful supporting character. She would win the supporting character Oscar if this were a movie. And the rest
When
of the
this is a
cast
movie.
Well, that's right. When, not if, when.
Sarah is 12 years old, and her mother has died. Her father has sold everything, packed them up, and moved them to this cereal factory that he has inherited from his uncle. There is supposed to be something of great value there. And there are only two employees left because it's running down. And they actually invested in something, but they didn't know exactly what they were investing in, some great, wonderful invention that is supposed to be in Uncle Erland's office. Well, of course, Sarah and her father have searched and they can't find anything except this jar of goo. And they don't know what it is or what it's for. There are no instructions.
Mm-hmm.
So Sarah is rightly mad at her father because she got no say in it. He just packed them up and left their old home where she was comfortable, where she felt loved, where she had friends. And now she's being mercifully teased by the kids in her new school because she is the kid who lives in the cereal factory. So she starts off as furious in a way that the audience should be very well able to understand.
Yeah, she wants to go back with her friends and what she's familiar with. Sure.
So we open with Sarah and her father arguing on the loft in the factory. And he says that this purple goo has to mean something. She says it's no good for anything and deliberately topples the goo or pours the goo. We don't have broken glass in the cereal. She pours the goo into the cereal vat and stomps out. They inadvertently deliver the crate of boxes to the local amusement park, which is the hangout for all the kids in this town.
And then everything kind of explodes. So we don't want to tell the producers everything. Let's let them read it, because if we give them away everything, they'll be like, I don't need to read the script. You do need to read this. So I have a question about the screenplay for Lois. Lois, do you see this as animation, a live action, a combination, or where are you targeting this particular screenplay?
Well, while I do think that popping is about the lowest price special effect there is, this would work great as animation.
What about live action? Have you thought about that being a live action?
That was our original thought. That's why Lois says that's no CGI. Change the background.
Yeah, you could do be a sound effects, which are very cheap to do in motion picture.
Right.
Sure, you could do it the good old fashioned way, because at the heart of every story, the story is what really sells it, not just the special effects. We've all seen big special effects movies that flopped, so it's not always about the effects, it's about the characters, etc. So
Right.
now, where are you at with your marketing? I know you're looking for agent right now, or maybe some representation, but what are your marketing plans for Pop-Up Kids?
Someone who would be most likely interested in this would be an independent producer who has some experience working with kids, who realizes that, hey, this is a special effects movie, but look at this dead simple, cheap special effect. I can do this on a medium budget. I can take it out on the circuit and show it at film festivals. We hope win some prizes and get picked up by Netflix.
Yay.
or
Yeah.
Disney Plus or
I can
Paramount
definitely see it.
Plus.
Definitely Disney, Paramount, yes. And I'm going to toss something in here too, because just the other day, ironically, I was reading this article about so many abandoned carnivals and former amusement parks around the country. Some people are revitalizing them, bringing them back and things like that. And they're privately owned by people who have a lot of money, people who could possibly, help foot the bill for this particular movie while
Great
promoting,
idea.
yeah, while promoting their amusement park. So now one of the things I'd like to ask you ladies, because you have an extensive and amazing history in writing, from magazines to books to everything else, is do you have a process in the collaboration that do one of you do act one or one of you do the outline? Now, what's your process in here? Let's start with Jean, then we'll go to Lois.
We usually start with an idea, and it can be either one of us, although I'll tell you, usually it's Lois who comes up with the idea. And she has an idea for a plot, and she comes to me, and I say, "Oh, no! We need to do this. We need to do that." And we talk and outline. We keep working until we've got a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Well, I usually write the first draft of the outline, and then Jane rips it to shreds. And when we finally have an outline that we both think has a good shape, then I usually write the first draft, and then Jean rips that to shreds.
Okay, so ladies, so that sounds like a good process. So what I'd like to know from each of you, and let's start with Lois, is if you had advice for someone just starting out and they're interested in screenwriting and TV writing and that, what would you tell them to do?
Take Hal Krosman's class at Screenwriting U. That's what Jean and I did.
Okay.
He taught us the basic things we needed to know about how a screenplay is different from a novel.
Right.
And one of the really cool tricks that he uses is you never end an argument. You just jump to the next scene and you
Right.
show what happened.
Jean, tell us, what advice would you give those writers just starting out?
Well, the same advice that Lois just gave.
Okay.
The internet is full of classes on every imaginable subject. Write. To learn any skill, and we're talking about a skill. Once you start producing a film and everything falls together, it may become art at that point. But up until then, it's skills.
Mm.
And skills can only improve by practice. There's no other way to do it.
Right, absolutely. Now, didn't one of you do some stuff with it? Was it PBS with some production in terms of getting a project in that was made on one of the television? Was it Jean, I think?
Lois did it was
Lois,
her
sorry.
series.
I did the It's Chemical series.
Yes, Lois.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But that wasn't it wasn't PBS, it was Human Relations Media.
Okay, sorry. What do you mean relation to me? So tell us about that. Were you involved with the production end of that or just the writing?
Yes, I was there every day on the set. I had to show the actors how to use the chemical props because a lot of it is hands-on chemical activities.
And Lois, I mean, you've had an agent before. I'm sorry, Jean. Jean's had you've had an agent before. You have your New York Times bestseller. Has any of that helped you with your connections with the screenwriting at all?
No, if anything, there seems to be an attitude in the film TV section of you write books, you don't know a thing.
Okay, so ladies, do you want to say anything in closing at all about your projects? If you want to say something to producers, let's start with Lois and then we'll go to Jean.
Jean and I try to be easy to work with. We don't demand Tom Cruise.
Okay. Yeah, I think you're very flexible to work with. Yeah. And you have a beautiful vision of things. So, so Jean, is there anything in closing you'd like to say to producers?
Read our scripts, love our scripts.
Okay, ladies, thank you very much for being here today. I've enjoyed meeting both of you. It's been charming and wonderful.